You heard Aaron's story, a year and a half ago, something like that. So go ahead here. Microphones. You guys have them. Tyrus, where are the mics? They're behind over here? Okay, I'll let you get those. You heard Aaron's story. And if you didn't hear it, you can go online, Frontline Bible Church, and Stories of Impact is what we're looking for. And, they're over. There we go. Thanks. Thanks for the finger pointing. You heard Aaron's story, but Aaron's story is just one piece of the story, because what was affected was a marriage. It was a marriage, and when I started doing the series on marriage, I said, I want you guys to hear their story. And so today I've invited them, and I got to tell you, they couldn't wait to do this, right? The thing about these two is, I just texting with Aaron yesterday, and he was like, man, I cannot wait until tomorrow afternoon. So I'm just going to welcome you guys. Thank you for being willing to do this. It takes tremendous courage. So I just say thank you for that, okay? So I know there's a lot to talk about here. So I want to just, I guess, it's Aaron and Lisa Jarrett. I guess they're going to hear a lot about your story. So tell me from you guys, we're going to go kind of from where you were at the very beginning all the way to this, but I can truthfully say from myself, there are so many reasons why you guys should not be married today. But there were some decisions that you've made along the way. And so I just want you to start from dating. Like, okay, dating to marriage, like, help us understand how you came to be where you're at today.
I guess we can start with...
Is your mic on? It's on. They're green and blue.
Okay. I guess we can probably start from when we met. I was a server at Buffalo Wild Wings, and we met there. But our story actually started like a couple years prior to that. I was having lunch on my lunch break one day at the Wendy's near 44th and Clyde Park, and just decided to eat my lunch in my car and just kind of parked in a parking spot and looked across the street, and I saw this roofing company, Jarrett Roofing, and I thought to myself, man, that is a really cool name. I specifically remember thinking, I should go in there and see if there's any like hot single Jarretts that I can date. So when he and his friends came into Buffalo Wild Wings that night, they ordered a drink and checked his ID, and I was like, oh, there it is. I was like, Jarrett, huh? Like Jarrett Roofing? And he's like, yeah. So that was like kind of sparked conversation that night. And he left with my phone number. And then we went out on our first date shortly after that. And just the hostess sat us down at the table. We sat down, we locked eyes, and I had that feeling that I think some people have. It's just like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna marry this guy. Like, I felt that immediately. But I didn't have the typical response to that feeling. I was more like, oh crap. Because I had...
She was like, this guy is gonna completely mess my life plans up.
It's a true story. That's true. Because I really wanted to finish my degree. And so shortly before I met him, made goals for my life. I'm like, I'm gonna finish my teaching degree, I'm gonna move out west, and so like these are my plans. They were set into motion, and then I'm like, I am not in the mood to deal with, I wasn't ready and looking for a relationship at all.
So I will start out by saying Lisa by far was the most difficult girl I have ever dated. Or I have ever shown any kind of interest in whatsoever.
You gotta work harder for that fruit at the top of the tree.
That's true. That's very true. So I say that because she would completely disregard any kind of emotion or any kind of feelings that I had toward her. And I was not used to that at all. But strangely, I was kind of attracted to that in a way, because that was a challenge for me. And I dug it. I liked it. So just an example, on one particular evening, I knew throughout the day that I was going to, later that night, kind of express my feelings towards Lisa. And as a guy, that's extremely difficult to do, right? So I went out on a limb. I was like, okay, I'm going to tell her how I feel about her, and that I'm serious about the relationship, and I'm just going to put my feelings out there for her, right? So as soon as I did that, she looks at me, and she just bust out laughing right at my face, and I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. I was so embarrassed. And I'm like, you know what? That's why us guys don't do that stuff, because this is ridiculous, actually.
Amen.
So, but I definitely knew that Lisa was going to be a challenge for me, and I guess I was okay with it. I was looking forward to it, I would say.
All right. I didn't dislike him. I think our personalities are very compatible. We have like a very similar sense of humor. I just didn't like him enough to get too emotionally attached to him. There was like this push-pull relationship. Like he would push me to be more emotionally involved, and then I would pull away. Like he will tell you that I was mean to him, but like he was just clearly more emotionally attached. So he's like, yeah, you're so mean to me, and I'm like, I just couldn't figure out any other way to try to get this guy to like break up with me, because like I didn't want to be the one who was responsible for any emotional distress he went through. But I'm like, oh, if I could get him to break up with me, then like I wouldn't have to feel bad about it. I'd be like, oh, if that's what you really want, But it turns out he's a glutton for punishment, and like try as I might, I could not get this guy to dump me. So I graduated, got my teaching degree, and got a job in Utah. And I thought, well, maybe if I put a mountain range between us, then we can finally just, I can sever ties. And but as they say, I guess absence makes the heart grow fonder, and the distance between us made it easier to ignore like red flags and some incompatibilities. So our relationship did continue throughout that school year, and then ultimately we decided, since things were going so much better when we weren't so close together, we were like, hey, it'd be a really good idea is if we went to Vegas and got married.
Sounds like a good plan, right? So I was really excited about the engagement. I was really happy over it, and because in my eyes, I was like, man, I finally got this girl pinned down. I finally got her right where I want her, But so that was exciting. It's almost like I won that battle in a way. But I can tell you that I was extremely terrified to go through with the wedding. I was terrified for many reasons, but I had my dad out there. We had family out there in Vegas, and the night before the wedding, I had a conversation with my dad, and I was telling him, I was like, Dad, I'm gonna back out of this. I can't do this. I can't go through with this. It doesn't feel right to me. I can't do it. I can't do it, Dad. I need to back out. And he was shocked. He was like, Aaron, it's gonna be okay. You're getting nervous, and everything's gonna be fine. And by the way, the whole family's out here, man. So you gotta go through with this thing, right? So that's not really what I wanted to hear, but That's what was said. And so we ended that conversation, and then later on that night, I had another conversation with one of my sisters that was out in Vegas as well. And I had the same kind of conversation with her about just not wanting to go through with this. I want to back out of this, and for many reasons. But she said, Aaron, no, Lisa is going to be so good for you. She's what you need. You just have cold feet. This is normal. It's going to be fine. You know, so that's not what I wanted to hear either. I wanted somebody on my side, right? But,
Yep.
But I can tell you, and I didn't mention it to them, but I can tell you the real reason that I didn't want to go through with the marriage. That reason was I doubted my ability to commit to the marriage. And I was just too embarrassed to mention that to them. But I doubted my ability to have 100% commitment to the marriage. I knew I couldn't trust myself. I knew the type of person I was, and I knew I couldn't trust myself. And I knew at some point I was going to fail. I was going to fail my wife, and I was going to fail my marriage. And you know, that's exactly what I did.
Like he was having his doubts, but I also in Vegas was having my doubts as well. I mean, I distinctly remember being in my wedding dress. My hair was done, my makeup was done, and walking to that chapel, hoping someone would come rescue me because I felt a lot of discontent about going through with the wedding. But then what we decided to do then, since we were both having doubts, is not tell each other and just get married anyway. Yeah.
That worked.
Yeah. But being married, like, I mean, we had a very atypical dating experience and then an atypical start to our marriage. We were not the lovey-dovey newlyweds that you would expect. We never went on a honeymoon. But there was a major shift in our level of commitment after we got married. Like for me, I was like, okay, I'm married now, and I do have strong feelings about marriage. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna commit, and I was ready to cleave. And for Aaron, his shift was like, I think he started to feel like the noose tighten.
So for you guys, you made the decision, we're getting married, we're committing to each other. And then it's marital bliss after that, right? Things just keep going up? Is that...
No, not at all. Our first challenge as a married couple, it came about 2 months after the wedding. We held a reception back here in Michigan, and at that point in time, we had a pretty major disagreement with Lisa's parents at that time, and unfortunately that led to just about a 10-year estrangement, and that was hard, but we're great now. We're absolutely fantastic now. But also within that same year, that same time, we had somewhat of a falling out with my parents as well. See, I worked for my dad for years, and I ran his roofing crews. And his business was starting to struggle a little bit, and I didn't really like where the business was going or what was going to happen, and I just didn't trust it. So what happened then is I broke away from my dad's business, and I started my own. So ultimately, now we're competitors because I started a roofing business. So now we're competitors. We're competing against the same jobs, you know. So I think at that time my parents might have felt some type of betrayal on my end, but that just wasn't the case. I didn't want to go down with a sinking ship, right? So I had to jump. So that's what we did. So right out of the gate, you know, a couple months in, we were having some major conflict on both sides of the family.
So, yeah, I mean, that sounded like a good time to start a family, right? So that's what we did. But we will say, like, having our son was like the best part about our early marriage. We loved being parents. Jackson was just such a huge blessing. For real. Not even lying. No, it was, I mean, he was the glue that we needed. He was great. But then when he was 2 months old, he got sick, spiked a fever, which can be quite serious for babies his age. So we took him in and got him evaluated, and turns out he had an infection that had kind of settled into his bone, and he needed surgery. So my 2-month-old had surgery, and then the suggestion was like, hey, we need you to stay in the hospital for 30 days so that your son can be on IV antibiotics. So I lived at Hotel Helen DeVos for like 30 days. We checked in right before Christmas, and then we're discharged on January 18 of 2011. So yeah, we were there for a full month.
Yes, there was a lot going on. So we got discharged. We were so happy and so relieved, you know, that we were finally leaving the hospital after 30 days and going home. You know, my goodness, we were so happy, and getting our little Jax back. And you know, he's not so little now, but he's a little stud football player over there. But anyway. We were so happy to finally, we're going home, you know, and let's get our family started, and my goodness, let's just be normal, right? So whatever that means. But so we get inside, we start to put our belongings away, and about 15 to 20 minutes later, I get a phone call that would completely change the course of my life. Completely switch directions. I get a call from my father saying that my brother Chad just ended his life. So we were up here so high and so happy, and then within minutes we were down at the bottom again. And soon as I heard that, I dropped to the floor in just disbelief. I was numb, I was shocked, and I was hurting so badly that what that did was it sent me off on a path full of addiction, I would say, and misery. I was reckless, I was careless, and to be quite honest, I didn't care who was in my way. Your feelings at that point didn't matter to me. I drank heavily every single day. I gambled a ridiculous amount of money, hard-working money. And through that time, I can tell you the thing that has affected us the most was that as a husband, I violated Lisa's trust in the deepest ways. As a husband, I completely violated her trust. And
I mean, at the time of Chad's death, we'd been married for just over 18 months, and that was like the catalyst, the major event that began like an over 10-year battle. It was like major knockdown, drag-out fights, drinking, financial struggles, lies, trial separations for various reasons that I'd rather not get into. But as you can imagine, it was pretty hard for people who loved me to watch me endure that level of distress. So they did offer me emotional support, but they were also able to offer financial support as well. And they made it clear to me that if I needed, help with a place to live or financial backing to hire a lawyer, that all I needed to do was ask. And I appreciate that, but I just never fully felt at peace with that option. I mean, our relationship post-2011 was this up and down timeline of like hills and valleys. And I just found that in both our highs and our lows, God would sustain me. The highs gave me stamina to endure the valleys. And even in those low points, God sustained me by, like, I would just hear, like, on the radio, just some random story from someone, like, who had a similar marriage experience to mine, and her testimony was, like, God restored my marriage, and I thought to myself, hey, if God could restore her marriage, then maybe he can restore mine. And so that would keep me going a little bit longer. And then sometimes in the valleys, I would hear a coworker talking about her divorce situation, and it was like child support issues and child custody issues, and that battle that those people were facing was not more appealing than the battle that I was already facing in my own home. I mean, and at least if like I decided to stay married, I would have access to my children at all times. So I know myself well enough to know that I always kind of like gravitate towards convenience. And to be honest, I'd like to say that my intentions were always in line with godly principles. But the truth of it is that most of the time I was just too emotionally exhausted to deal with all the drama that I knew a divorce would bring. So our marriage at that time was like, a few years out from Chad's suicide, like became like this semi-functional, it was just like, it just was in the semi-functional state where we didn't fight as much. There were still all the issues that were, most of the issues that we had from before, but for a while there we just existed and just like made it through. But I earned a nursing degree, we had another baby, and then Aaron's dad got that stage 4 lung cancer diagnosis. And I knew what that meant. I loved my father-in-law very much. He's a good man. And the thought of losing him was very sad to me, but my feelings of sadness were overwhelmed by my fear. And my fear of reliving 2011 and all of the stuff that happened after that. So I know my husband was distraught over losing his father because, yeah, you guys, struggled when you went out on your own, but by that time, you guys were just working together so well. And, I mean, he was just your little bestie. But I remember telling Aaron, distraught Aaron, just found out his dad is probably going to die. I'm like, hey, really sorry that you're going to lose your dad. But if you put me through what you did when Chad died, I will take our kids and leave you. And he didn't take it well. A bit insensitive perhaps, but after Al died, that cycle did begin again. And I was able to hold out for a few years, but after that few years of more of those ups and downs, the stamina was gone. I lost all hope, and I started to make plans to end my marriage.
So clearly there's no reason for you to stay. You know, all these reasons. What took you from crisis, it's pretty big ones, to where you're sitting today? You're sitting on it's to me it's not ironic, you're sitting on a love seat, okay? You're sitting on a love seat up here. What brought it from there to here?
So I acknowledge the fact that I did a tremendous amount of damage to this marriage. And I can't go back and change it. I can't go back and fix that part. That part's done. It happened. I knew I was days, if not hours away from receiving those divorce papers. I felt it to my core. I knew it was coming. And you see, I couldn't stand looking in a mirror at this anymore. I couldn't take it anymore. I would intentionally, for a period of time, avoid mirrors because I hated the person I saw in that mirror. When I happened to look in a mirror, I honestly couldn't stand the sight of this face because all I saw was shame, was guilt, was failure. You're a loser. You're no good. That's what I saw when I looked in the mirror. So, man, I knew that I had to be willing to change and change fast, or I was going to lose everything. It was coming. I had to make a decision for our marriage. And I made a decision to visit the Life Center at that time. And what a blessing that was for us. They reminded me there that they reminded me whose I was and not who I am. I'm not that loser I thought I was. I'm not that piece of garbage that I felt inside. So they reminded me of that. And that was huge for me. So what I ended up doing was I surrendered our marriage, our life, our family. I surrendered it all to Him because my way was not working. I've tried that for too long. I had to give it to Him. I had to surrender it to Him. And it's a process. It's not like you surrender it, your marriage to God, and the next day these blessings are going to just, pour out of the sky. It's not like that. But what happened over a period of time was that God was slowly changing the desires of my heart. It took a while. He was slowly changing my heart because I was making better decisions. my addictions weren't so attractive anymore. You know, I just made better decisions. I felt better, you know? And me giving all authority to God over my life wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And in doing so, that led me to the place that has destroyed our marriage for how many years? You know, that led me to that casino where I was able to sign a form and call it quits and close that chapter of my life. Without God, there is no way possible I could have done that on my own. There's no way. He changed my heart. And then I decided that day too was to put that alcohol away. That was killing me. You know, now I'm free and sober for over 2.5 years. You know? And now I have the opportunity to be a better husband. Because I'm clear-minded. My heart's different. Now I have the opportunity to be a better dad to my kids. And I actually have the chance to change that generational curse that has been dominating my family for as long as I can remember. You know, I can do that now. I can change course. And it all goes to the glory of God. Amen. All of it.
You know, he said he could feel. It's like, I knew I was days away. And I mean, you weren't necessarily days away, but like I had made the decision, like, okay, there's no hope left. I have to end my marriage. And I'm a planner, so it was going to take some time, right? I had to get my ducks in a row. But I think unbeknownst to me, and maybe not to you, but there were some things going on behind the scenes that I was unaware of. So I think I scheduled a meeting with you because I was like, hey, I have to tell John, you know, I'm done. And I know he's been talking to Aaron, so I also might need to set him straight on some details because I don't know what this guy's been telling him, but someone needs to tell him what's really going on. So I met with John, and I was like, hey, these are my plans. And you said, you know, let's just give it 30 days. And it's time for God to show up. God, we're putting let's see what God can do in this 30 days. I was like, all right. And it was crazy because, like, within those 30 days, like Aaron said, it's a process, right? I didn't see, like, dramatic change within that 30 days, but I saw enough where I was like, hey, this is different. This is, you know, we've been married for over 10 years, 12 years, however long we were saying that was. And I was like, I've not seen that before. And that was enough to kind of keep me, just to kind of restore that hope a little bit. And then when he said to me, it's like, I think I'd like to ban myself for life from the casino. And you can do like 1-year bans and 2-year bans. And he had done that previously, but when he suggested a lifetime ban, that was huge for me. So we did go to the casino that day, and I was excited. Like, this is what I had wanted, right? So I was happy. I was walking in there. You know, you spend a certain amount of money there, and you get comp dollars that you can spend, like, in the restaurant or the gift shop. And he's like, hey, I got all these comp dollars. I was like, yeah, man, let's go to that gift shop and just ransack it. So, you know, get all these things, and, like, I was excited, right? Because I was getting what I wanted. Walk out to the truck with bags of stuff, and then come back in and go to security to fill out that paperwork to ban, to get him banned. And just walking out the doors, still happy that this is going on, but something about walking outside those doors and just being unburdened. Like I didn't even realize, like I'd been living with that burden for years. And what it felt like to just walk out of those doors and knowing that that would be the last time that he would be walking out those doors, just like I could just feel it, like something lift off of me. And this wave of relief was just almost too much to bear. And I just lost it. And I didn't know until you were about to share your story last year that seeing me react that way was one of the reasons where you're like, okay, drinking too.
Yeah.
You know? And it's just been like an amazing journey since.
Well, I know there's way more that you guys could share about the story. There's
How
so
long-
many
what time?
details. Exactly.
What time y'all got to leave?
I just as we close this out, I guess whichever one wants to go first. What would you say to everyone here about decisions they have to make about their own marriage?
I would say to seek wisdom. In 2011, before like the floor dropped out, really, my aunt had invited me to a Bible study on wisdom at her church. So prior to me finding out what was really happening and to the extent of which it was happening, I spent the entire summer before in the book of Proverbs. And I don't think that I would be able to tell you how much that probably changed how I reacted to certain things. So seeking wisdom. And then number 2 is to seek biblical counsel. Like I did see a counselor for a few months, and it was important to me that counselor be a biblical counselor or Christian. And so I went to see this person who had the credentials, right? Had the MDiv behind their name. I was like, yep, this is the one. But the longer I was there, the more I was starting to realize that I was not necessarily receiving biblical counsel. Like there were very clearly spiritual things going on in our relationship. Like I could clearly see that spiritual battle, and to hear those things being explained away in a clinical fashion, I was like, this is not for me. So I decided to end my relationship with that counselor and seek a more biblical perspective.
So this reliving of our marriage struggles was something that did not appeal to us whatsoever. We weren't excited about it, and we had to do some heavy praying over it. It's something we didn't really want to do, to be honest. But we felt that it needed to be done and to be shared because of how grateful we were that God has turned things around for us. Because He is the answer. Amen. He's the only answer. Amen. So if there's any hope that I can give, it would be make sure you have God on your side. He wants your marriage to succeed. You just have to let Him in. Let Him in. But also be willing to do the work that it takes. Right? God is the answer to everything. Yeah. He is the answer. He's the reason we are still together and up here. Yeah. He's the only reason. So put God first in everything you do. And things will change.
What do you think? Should we give him a hand? Yeah. Thank you,